All right, here we go. What's up, everyone? Kevin Allen here. It's week 12, week in review, the King of the Beach edition. And I'm really excited to bring this one to you guys today. What we do every week in DFS Army is we look back on the sheets or the approach or our mindset for the previous week. That's how we improve at DFS in general. And as a lot of you guys know, who are watching this, this past weekend, I was in the King of the Beach Draftkings tournament down in Miami. And I thought it was a great opportunity because a lot of times we talk about mass multi-entry and building a lot of lineups. And, that's great. But there's a really kind of different strategy for building one lineup, and especially one lineup for a high dollar, smaller contest. So I thought this was a great opportunity because this one was a classic. I thought this was a great opportunity to do a week in review where I kind of go over the strategy for making a lineup in a single entry contest. We're going to look at my lineup, how it came together for the King of the Beach. Came in 14th place, won 15K overall. Not bad. Could have done a lot better. It was a very winnable contest. There's some regrets here that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the process, the mindset that I went through to get to this point, to put this lineup together. And there was a lot of strategy involved, and some that I'm upset about, some that I'm happy with, some moves that I made that obviously worked, some that I thought were what I call nutless moves. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the pressure of this type of a lineup and this type of a contest and how that affects players psychologically. So there's a lot of really cool stuff here to go over. And I think this is going to be really just a really, really important review and just important information, even for myself. I like to work it through in my head. You're playing this game for a lot of years, and yet, these type of contests don't come up enough where you get so much experience in them. Not for me anyway. I mean, listen, other people, whatever, but not for me, where you get so much experience in them where it becomes an old hat. There's nerves. There's pressure every time. You don't get a lot of these type of content. This essentially was a $22,000 value ticket at this point. It was 10K to get into this contest, and then you had to beat out a part 2 of 200 entrants for a top 75 to go on the trip. The trip value was about $8,000, which was awesome. Everybody had a great time. But I want to talk about the lineup, the week that was week 12. Week 12 was a very tough week. Everybody knew it from the start. We talked about it on all of the podcasts over the course of the week, just how tough it was going to be. There weren't a lot of teams in good spots. There were a couple of teams in good, but most of the game totals were very low. There weren't a lot of games that projected really highly. There was just one. There was this Atlanta-Tampa game that really projected well, and it stood out extreme compared to every other game of the week. So I think that's an important note to begin with, where the Tampa-Atlanta game had like a 51.5 point game total going into game time. No other game came close. So that was the sort of backdrop of this tournament. Now, on the screen in front of me here, you could see the lineup that I put in, and you could kind of see what went right and what went wrong. And I'll explain how I got to a lot of these plays. I also want to show the tournament as a whole, what everybody did, some of the psychological things. So let's just jump into week 12. Like I said, it was a very tough week for everybody, but actually these sort of tough weeks, I think, are the most winnable. And in looking back, DFS Army members, I'm sending out like 8 swag bags today. Like we had members just crush it this week, and it makes a lot of sense. Because we were on a lot of the right pivots, certainly in the Geeks picks sheet and in Josh's DFS Up North GPP sheet. We're on a lot of just nailed a lot of the right pivots. Josh talked about Mitch Trubisky as a sort of top tournament play, and that worked out really well for people. If they did that, a Trubisky to Allen Robinson type of stack. I didn't have the balls to do that in this contest, of course. But if you watch my podcast, my play and the way I was leaning up until the last second was going with Ryan Fitzpatrick to Devontae Parker and even Allen Hurns as a stack. And I'm going to explain why I got to that. So I'm going to jump over to the contest itself. I'm going to show some of the player scores and some of the ownerships. But if you watch the Players Club pod or listen to it, I talked about Fitzpatrick and all the reasons to play him. And I had him clicked in. And, the psychology of, the FOMO of Matt Ryan in that great spot at home against Tampa, and sort of that, and this psychology of, I don't want to finish in last place because, that would really suck going home. That would give me a really bad feeling. So, I should eat some chalk here and just, play this sort of smart play. That strategy, the killer strategy, the one that kills you, that's what kills you. And Ben's talking about, Ben obviously watches my podcast. Ben, you're always there. You watch my videos, you watch my podcast. So you saw the sly smirk I got when I was pointing out how Ryan Fitzpatrick was expected to be 1% owned this week. And he was taking on a Cleveland defense that was missing 3 premium defensive players on their team. Plus, they can't run the football. All of that means scoring from the quarterback position. We're looking for floor in our quarterback plays. And that should have happened with Matt Ryan. The reality is, for him to bust here was very difficult. And that was the difficulty for me. So let me start at the quarterback position. And what I'm looking for, because a lot of people say, how do you come up with your core plays? Like, what are you looking for? And Curtis is asking, did I hand build this lineup? Nathan, yes, there is a video. It wasn't at the con. It was on the beach. So you could find that on Twitter, on my Twitter. I posted it somewhere. Maybe it was in DFS Army. Yeah, I do silly things, Nate. Curtis is asking, did I hand build the lineup? Absolutely, I hand built the lineup. But I use the projection systems, not just from DFS Army. I look at every projection system I can get my hands on to look at. Why? Because I want to see where the chalk is going to be, because I know the type of players that are entering this contest. And this is an important part of what I'm going to talk about. This is what I'm going to talk about. When you're entering a single entry contest like this, a lot of people are going to default to the value plays. And I talked about this last week on the pod when I broke down my lineup that got into it. You just go on the Domination Station Optimizer and you click on fantasy points per dollar. I'll show you it now. Unfortunately, we have new slates opened up, so I can't show this one, but I'm going to show what I do, okay? Because this is when you're trying to determine the chalk, okay? What are people going to play in this contest? Well, there's a psychology, there's a fear. I'll just look. I'll bring up the main slate. I want to show you. I haven't even looked at this yet, but main slate for this week, and you'll get the early. Let's see. Yeah, we'll get some early numbers. Let's see if these are ours. Yeah. Okay, so you want to know who people are going to be on? Generally? Oh, this is still that. Okay, here we go. So we still have, yeah, nice. They left it going. All right, perfect. This is great. Jeff Driscoll. Yeah. Okay, here we go. So you want to know how people are, I can't believe it's still here. That's awesome. Okay, you want to know who people are on? You click on fantasy points per dollar. People are going to play the highest projected player on a fantasy points per dollar basis. Now, if you just did this look, if you look at wide receiver, for example, you want to know who the chalk is going to be most weeks? It's the highest guy here, or on a fantasy points per dollar basis, like the grades and all of that good stuff. So you could see a lot of the players that were on this week's slate. Running back, it was very obvious, for example, that Alvin Kamara was going to be played. Why? Because he popped as the highest projected points per dollar play on the slate by far. Other names that you saw were there. I mean, Henry beasted, Fournette beasted. A lot of these guys had great games. But the one who popped the most was Alvin Kamara. So you knew going in, for example, that Alvin Kamara was going to be chalk. But yeah, and with Vincent Jackson asking about the fact that he busted after the fact is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It was a good play going in. So let me explain. Let me get back to it because I don't want to get too distracted here. I really want to get into the explanation of why I use Matt Ryan over other players. So what you're trying to do in a contest like this is balance chalk and FOMO of not playing chalk against the fear of coming in last, right? Where it's embarrassing. You don't want to do that. So everybody in this contest has the same mentality. This approach is good for all high dollar contests, small high dollar contests, right? I'm not talking about how to attack the Millie Maker. It's a totally different thing. In a Millie Maker, that kind of thing, you shouldn't even go anywhere near the chalk. But in a contest like this, note, unlike the Millie Maker type of contest where a quarterback's highest ownership might be 15, 18%, you don't get these 45, 55. This game played out much more like cash. And when you looked at it, a lot of the people in this tournament, I'm going to go and we'll look over some lineups. A lot of them attacked it either like a cash game or what I call a hybrid. And hybrid is like, we're playing a cash core, but we're kind of making a few switches. It's something I go over every week on the DFS Army VIP only Players Club podcast in terms of how to take your core sort of cash and make a few changes to attack a hybrid contest. And this is the same idea. So, going in, I knew that Ryan Fitzpatrick was in the kind of a spot where the Fitz magic could come out. There's no running back on the Dolphins that is any good at all. No running back. Nothing. The guy likes to throw a lot. The opposing defense, not good. Missing all of their best players. So I was like, wow, Fitzpatrick's in a great spot. No one's going to play him. He's 1% owned. That's where you want to go with this. Then I started doing the measurement. So Matt Ryan, and let me just pull this up here so you can see the salaries. Matt Ryan was 6,700. Fitzpatrick was 5K, right? You're going to save 1,700. That gives an automatic edge on the field. The negative is, Matt Ryan's coming out. He's playing Tampa. It's like a crazy cheat code matchup most weeks. And Ryan, if you notice, even with doing nothing, 30 more yards and a touchdown, he crosses the 300, he gets to 20 points. Like that would have been it. 30 more yards and a touchdown. It's 4. It's another 3, 7, another 1, 8. And he gets you to 18, 19 points. Like it was almost impossible for him to fail, but he did. It happened. But the lesson was, it's not that he failed. It was, all right, let's say Matt Ryan has a fine day and he puts up 23 points. He's not a guy that's normally putting up 35. You could in this spot, but he was going to be so chalk. And it shouldn't be the most probable outcome. But in weighing that against his ownership, when you're talking about the most expensive quarterback on the slate, or one of them, remember that the most expensive quarterback on the slate to be in the perfect lineup has to score the most fantasy points. So it's not just about will Matt Ryan have a good day. It's will he have a better day than everyone else. Now, so the two influences that you're trying to do when you're making a lineup like this is, number one, you're trying to lock in some floor, lock in some points. Because again, no one wants to come in last. We knew going in it was going to be a very tough week. So that combination was really interesting. We knew it was going to be a tough week. So why play Matt Ryan? Because Matt Ryan was in the same situation as Fitzpatrick, but in a better potential game environment with a higher total, right? The negative was he was going to be very high owned, but Matt Ryan also had no running back to vulture anything. And all the touchdowns were going to come, or seemingly should have come, off of his arm. And therefore, you would have expected that Matt Ryan would be a great play in the spot, high floor, the whole deal. No one was expecting Tampa Bay to blow them out. No one was expecting Matt Ryan to get benched late and just taken out of the game when they were behind. And of course, Calvin Ridley got the garbage time touchdown, which was very nice. But, it starts with the quarterback position, right? In a contest like this, when you know somebody's going to be chalk, it's, do you have the balls to not play this chalk quarterback? And it is very, very difficult to pull that trigger. I did it in the 200 entry contest that led up to the final, the semifinal. I played Jeff Driscoll at 4,700. It worked. It was amazing. Came in 4th place. And that is the key. You can pay down at quarterback, especially if there's no Lamar Jackson up here sort of floating around with his incredible potential. Matt Ryan is a 20-point guy, 23. He doesn't run for anything. So the FOMO of missing out on Matt Ryan should have been less than it was. And I really thought about it. I discussed it with, and then in the end of that, I didn't pull the trigger. So that's what happened. And deservedly so, you wind up where you do. But I want to go through the rest of this lineup and where I did make some pivots. So one thing was, I knew Julio Jones would be massively owned. He wound up 50% in the contest. Julio Jones was all the buzz. He was the top. No one wanted to pay up for or let's put it like this. there was a consideration. Hey, don't pay all the way up for Michael Thomas. It's going to be Kamara day. That was the issue with Thomas. No one wanted to play Thomas and Kamara together. So the thought was play Kamara. He was going to be the chalk, which again was bad chalk. And then Julio Jones, he's in this great spot. If you're going to play Matt Ryan, it's got to play Julio Jones. Except if you look at Julio Jones, he's a fucking bust machine. You never want to play that guy when he's high owned. So it was an easy fade for me. So my first move, and here you go. Here's Julio Jones, 5 receptions, 9 targets, gets hurt during the game. Wasn't doing much before that. But look at the ownership, and we knew this would happen. So my first thought in my lineup was, when you're looking at mine, you notice that I didn't play Julio Jones. I played Matt Ryan to Calvin Ridley. Why? Because I'm trying to build a lineup that wasn't silly and not ridiculous. So you're trying to kind of stick close to the core, but make sharp pivots that other people wouldn't be on that could thrust you to the front of the standings. Okay, I just didn't do enough of them. But the Ridley play was that. I was able to go to Calvin Ridley from Julio Jones because my thought was, let the whole room, half of them playing Julio Jones, be moaning and groaning while Calvin Ridley's catching the touchdowns. So I figured that was a great little pivot off of Jones chalk. And I got him at only 17% owned, where the rest of the field was on Julio. And they didn't want to play a double stack Ryan, Julio, Ridley because that's too much correlation for this type of contest, potentially. No one wants to correlate to that extent. Again, we're talking about a hybrid contest, not a mass entry GPP. In a massive tournament, hell yeah, I'm going to play Ryan, Ridley. I had Ridley and Gage in here originally, which would have worked out better than Renfro. So I had Matt Ryan, Ridley, Gage with with Broncos defense. Then I was like, I'll just pay down at defense. Oh, I can afford a little more. Whatever. Bad moves. But initially I had Gage in here. So I went Ryan, Gage, Ridley, thinking I'll get most of the Ryan production and I'll be able to fade Julio as the sharp fade. All right, the rest of the lineup, right? So Derrick Henry to me was one of the locks of the weekend. He's just smashed Jacksonville constantly throughout his career. Tennessee is going to lean on that run by the goal line. They're always going to lean on the run. Yeah, Henry's the type of player that, if a defense is sort of bad versus the run and it's going to be, he's at home and it's going to be this kind of close game, he's the kind of player that's usually going to get the 100, get the touchdown. And I thought I was being cute with Derrick Henry. I thought everybody was going to play Le'Veon Bell and he would be the chalk so that I could pivot off of that and have uniqueness with Derrick Henry. That didn't work out. So obviously everybody else was pretty sharp with that play as well. Of course, when you're with some of the 75 sharpest players in the world, that's going to happen. You're gonna play. Everybody got on the sharp play. So Derrick Henry became chalk in the contest. Whatever. All right, my big move. So when I went down, going down from Julio Jones to Calvin Ridley allowed me to go up from Devontae Parker to DJ Moore. Now, DJ Moore was only 5% owned. Why did I play him? This is very, very important, and I want you guys to pay attention to his game log here, something I look at every week. What I'm looking for in my players, especially in this kind of lineup, is volume. I want target volume above all other things. I want players who are the focus of their, as much as possible, who are the focus of their team's offense, especially when I'm paying up. And I want target volume. Now, obviously, this worked out better than I ever could have dreamed with DJ Moore because he hadn't been a touchdown scorer. But what he has been is a target volume monster. And I want to go all the way back. I call it to week 5. 8 targets, 10, 9, 10, 11, 15, 9. So I knew that I could get DJ Moore at almost no ownership. No one was talking about DJ Moore here. Everybody was talking about a bad matchup for Carolina. But, the week before, Carolina scored 3 points, and DJ Moore was a volume monster, and he put up 17.5 points, and they only scored 3. So I said, who cares? They only throw to really 2 or 3 players on the Panthers team. There's only 3 guys. It's McCaffrey, Moore, and Olsen, and then a little bit of Curtis Samuel. So there's not a big widespread of who they throw to on that team. So this was a key move for me, getting in more. Now, my regrets, There are regrets here. Number one, if I had gone down again to Fitzpatrick, I could have gotten up to somebody better than Hunter Renfrow in this spot. Could have gotten Devontae Parker, who is how I would have gone. I think he got like 16 points. So that could have added 10 plus another 15. That wins you the tournament right there. Like that would have been the tournament winner. Same lineup, but going to Fitzpatrick and Devontae Parker, which is not a stretch. Maybe changing Miles Sanders to Kareem Hunt, who I liked a lot better. That was it. So a couple of other spots I want to go over. We knew Kamara was going to be chalk. And in hindsight, I never should have played him either. Okay? This was a scared play. And I fully admit it. Yeah, you're saying... I just want to. I want you guys to know. Even I got nervous and like, man, my stomach was churning knots. And so I'm weighing Kamara, right? Kamara, not a volume guy, but he gets a lot of passing game volume. And I'm telling you, it was a mistake to play him. I still believe it. Now he could have gotten a touchdown. He could have smashed. The opportunity was there. But he's not getting enough volume most of the time. A lot of this came late. But had the game gone as it should have, with New Orleans dominating, Kamara never would have even had a chance to get here. So we got lucky with Kamara at the end that they threw to him a bunch of times in the last couple of drives. But I have to tell you, the regrets are serious. And in hindsight, he never should have been played. Why? Because he does not get enough volume week after week to justify it. Instead of Kamara, the play was Christian McCaffrey. It was finding a way to get him into the lineup. Why? Because McCaffrey is the sole focus of his offense. So no matter what happens, you're basically locking in 25 to 30 points with someone like Christian McCaffrey. And again, it was more that Kamara was going to be chalk. This is not a guy. So it was a fear play, right? He was expensive, but the fear was, if I don't play Kamara and he goes off, I'm fucked, right? That was the fear. But you can't go in these with fear. So 57% of the field played Kamara, but the sharp play was to take low-owned Christian McCaffrey and accept that gift. And then just punt one of these other spots. Like, you don't need to be perfect in a contest like this. This is another very important thing. Look at the final scores here. You don't need to be perfect to finish in the money. And there's this desire for perfection, but instead of that, the desire should be, just play it sharp. Even play it. You could throw away a lineup like a N'Keal Harry. I was going to use N'Keal Harry. There was a couple of spots where I had no confidence in, but you paid up too much. So hindsight, that's where sharper plays could have been made. Not making excuses, but for my own game, I'm looking back and saying, you know what? I played Kamara out of fear, not out of anything else. We knew he would be chalk. We knew he would be high owned. Everybody was talking. He's the highest owned player in the whole thing. So of course he would be high owned. Everybody knew why he's popping. Now you're asking, how do I know that? Because look, this is the projection system. He's the top guy, and it's not even close. It wasn't even close. So everybody's going to play this guy. So you have to say, all right, he was projected owner. We have ownership projections. So look, this is a better measure, right? You look at the ownership projections, and this tells you exactly what you need to know. Kamara, highest, next by Miles Sanders. Derrick Henry's up there. Le'Veon Bell right there with Henry. So there you go. Good ownership projections. Chubb, it got you on the right players. And here's McCaffrey, the lowest. But, I mean, if you just look at ownership projections, it generally tells you who the good plays are. And now you have to figure out, where am I going to pivot? What am I going to do different? Let's go to the wide receiver position. Julio Jones, the highest owned. Odell Beckham, great play. Calvin Ridley, but again, in a small contest, everybody went to Julio. Mike Thomas is always a strong play. There's Russell Gage. So, and Jarvis Landry. If you just looked at this, before the contest, it got you on some of the best plays. I mean, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Julian Edelman, Thomas. These were all great plays. Calvin Ridley. Fade Julio. You always fade Julio when he's going to be high owned. Oh man, with Godwin, it was just a matter of not having enough salary. It had nothing to do with correlation, because Godwin would have been a great correlative play. But to spend $7,300 on him, and I'm going to show you some people who did play him, and I'm going to show you why he was low owned, 4%. Okay, so that was a good question. Godwin was the nuts, but why? Because he had come off a string of low volume games, and even this game was low volume. He just got in the end zone twice, but like the era of 14 targets, look at how few. Sometimes he was just having lower target numbers. He wasn't passing 10. So I played DJ Moore because if you look at the target volume, again, DJ Moore has been targeted more often. I don't regret not playing Godwin. That is not one of my regrets in this contest because I played DJ Moore. TJ Moore, 9, 15, 11, 10. I want more targets. I want high target floor from my pass catchers. So I don't have any regret about not playing Godwin. I did think that Godwin was in a better spot than Evans, given the way that Atlanta plays defense. Atlanta plays defense to prevent the big play and to prevent the run, which leads to someone like Godwin, who's like more of a crossing patterns guy, potentially being in a better spot than Evans. But I love Godwin. But I didn't play him. I don't regret it. What I do regret, all right, so Miles Sanders, bad chalk. I knew it was bad chalk. And I'm sick over this play. Part of it is scrambling at the end. Miles Sanders was going to be chalk in the contest. He was, right? He's getting all the touches for the Eagles, and he did. He got most of the work for the Eagles. The problem is the Eagles have not been great at producing, and the issue for me was as soon as, it was hope versus knowledge, right? Alshon Jeffrey ruled out. Nelson Aguilar ruled out. Number one, my first thought was the Eagles' offense is just fucked right now. So that was the issue. But then I said, maybe with no one to throw to, they'll finally throw it to Miles Sanders a little bit. Now, Dallas Goedert became, getting back to that game, this was a high projected game total. So you're kind of like, oh, I kind of want. I kind of want a little bit of him. But the minute Alshon Jeffrey was out, first of all, I jumped into DFS Army Slack and I said, guys, Zach Ertz is now a mortal lock on FanDuel. So I hope everybody played him as a mortal lock because that's what he was. No Alshon, no Aguilar, no wide receivers to throw to at all. They were going to have to throw to the tight ends. They were just going to have to. Now, Goedert got 7 receptions. I mean, they threw to him a lot. Got a lot of targets. Fumbled, didn't do much with it, but 8 targets, 7 receptions. That's what I was expecting. So I moved off of Vance McDonald, who I had in there beforehand, onto Dallas Goedert after the news came out that Alshon Jeffrey and Nelson Aguilar would be out of the game. Right? Miles Sanders, why did I let him in fucking bad chalk in my lineup? So the other players that I was looking at Philip Lindsay, who didn't do better. I was looking at James White. I don't actually know how he did. But the one I really loved, and I was going to pull the trigger on if I was going to go down, was Ron Jones Jr. Why? Because no one was going to play him, and it had some correlation with my quarterback, and I thought that was a sneaky way to get sharp differentiation on the field without being stupid. Now, Ron Jones Jr. had a couple bad games, but their matchups were brutal. And I looked and I saw that Peyton Barber, who the other guy over there, I guess it's Peyton Barber, the other running back from Tampa, even though Ron Jones Jr. had a couple of mediocre weeks, they hadn't gone back to the other guy. Guys, in the chat, remind me the name of the second running back from Tampa. Peyton Barber, is it? I can't even remember right now. So I looked him up and I was like, oh, wow. Well, Ron Jones Jr. didn't have a great week last week, but they played the Saints. Like, you can't run against the Saints. So it makes sense. Like, he had lulled people into a sense of security. Ron Jones Jr. actually had a spectacular game. And again, that would have been a tournament winning decision just to make that swap. Should have. But then, the thought was with Miles Sanders, well, if they don't have any wide receivers, maybe they'll check down to the running back a little bit more. And Seattle's defense isn't that great. So, it was again, this one is one that I really didn't like. There's a lot of scrambling last second, so that was a big miss. You don't want to play this kind of chalk. You just don't. Even if he did well, it wasn't a good play. 30% of the people in this contest played him. Looking at the rest, Hunter Renfrow was in here just to be a volume piece. Again, Jets stopped the run, so I thought there would be more target volume than usual for him. It was a blowout. It was a disaster for the Raiders. Hindsight, again, a mediocre play. They were on the road, flying cross country. That's prime time for a letdown game. So, it should have been gauged. There were changes that could have been made here, just really easy ones that could have gotten this to the top. I was, again, I'm just trying to go through everything, make sure I remember. Bengals defense, just play the cheapest defense on a tough week. Sometimes when you pay up on defense, you basically just screw yourself. So, if it could happen, I wanted to play the Steelers. I liked Detroit. There were defenses that I liked. I had Detroit clipped in, but in the end of the day, I wanted the extra salary to spend. I couldn't feel good about my lineup with the defense that was paid up for. I can't believe Broranosaurus, played Redskins, for example. So let's take a look at the winning lineup. And I'm going to show some other alternates of what other people do. Yes, Vincent, we are trying to find volume. So here's the deal. And let me explain something real quick before I move on, because this is really important. It's something I talk about on my Players Complain. We don't know what these players are going to do. All we can do is assign probabilities to things, right? I don't care about the best player in the best spot. Matt Ryan, most expensive or second most expensive quarterback on the slate. We're looking at two probabilities. One, what is the probability that this guy scores, enough fantasy points to make it worth spending this salary on him? What's the probability? Is it 50%? Is it 70%? Matt Ryan had the highest probability on a standalone basis of being the highest scoring quarterback on the slate. He did going into this one. But what was the probability that some of these other quarterbacks do better on a points per dollar basis or actually outscore him? It's reasonable. So if Matt Ryan is going to be 30, 40% owned and Julio Jones 50% owned, but what was the actual probability that Julio Jones is the highest scoring wide receiver on the slate? It was much lower than that. It was much lower than the 50% ownership. So you can't be afraid of missing out, especially in NFL where some other player, even if you do a different move, some other player will pop up potentially that will do just as well. So, you don't have to have that same fear, but let's look at the winning lineup Broranosaurus put in. I'm going to talk about a couple of these. So Broranosaurus, and you don't see crazy stacks here, but you see a nice little stack. Mayfield, Odell Beckham, Devontae Parker. Beautiful. This is exactly the kind of stack you should do in a high dollar contest. Not, Mayfield, Odell, Landry, Parker. You don't want to go crazy on an insane game stack, but a nice game stack. One quarterback, wide receiver, opposing skill position player. That's the perfect kind of a stack. So he brought in Kareem Hunt as well. So he got the pass catching running back from his own team, probably hoping that Kareem Hunt could catch a touchdown pass. Instead, he ran one in. But you see, you've got a game stack here, two teams that were projected to, Cleveland was sort of, when you play against Miami, you're going to score a lot of points. And we knew that Cleveland should score a lot of points in this game. The question was, where were they going to come from? Are they going to go to Chubb? And are they going to throw that much? But everybody liked Odell. He was a pretty chalky wide receiver. It worked really well. So you've got Mayfield, Beckham, Parker, brought in Kareem Hunt for the sort of running back / potential for a pass catching score. He didn't get it. So got lucky with the score here with Kareem Hunt. I didn't think that was a good play in this lineup. Ate the chalk with Kamara. Went on the all-in tight end play of Zach Ertz in the flex. The unusual move, it is Peyton Barber. The unusual move of using a tight end in the flex, but in this case, like I said, even I didn't have the balls to do it in this contest either. And the issue was I was looking at Ertz at tight end, but when you do that, you pretty much have to just throw garbage in the flex, and just a psychological thing. Could have done it. You would have had to, there's a way to make it work with Ertz. I had him in also in one of my early lineups because I was just like, oh my God, with no Alshon Jeffrey and no Aguilar, they're going to have to throw to Ertz a ton. It didn't even take much. He didn't even have like an incredible game, but he scored a touchdown. just endless volume. Volume is king, guys. We want players who get a lot of targets. We want running backs who get a lot of touches and targets. We want wide receivers who are locked in for targets. That is the ultimate. That's what we're always looking for, especially in a high dollar tournament. So one of the nice things about just making one lineup is you can really dive deep into just the strategy of one single lineup. You can look at every single player and agonize over, is this the best play? And what if I make this switch and do that? What does the lineup look like then? And is this guy too chalky? And is it, am I going to miss out? So it really is a fascinating way to approach DFS when you're just making the one lineup. And it's interesting to note that like a lot of people are on the same player. So you don't have to, you can get an idea of who the chalk will be. And then you make sharp pivots around the chalk to try to win this style of contest. Everybody's going to take Ryan. You can pay down. So to alleviate the FOMO, when you pay down, listen, I don't need to score as much as Matt Ryan with my quarterback. If I put in Mike Fitzpatrick, I don't need to score 30 points. If the most expensive quarterback scores 30 points, all I need to do is have a good game with my guy and then allocate the extra resources that you get from saving that money into something that works, like on a good play. So you can't pay up for Julio and have him tank, because at that point, all the savings you got from these other spots just screwed you over. But there are players that always deliver or usually deliver. So there are sharp ways of doing this where you can get higher floor players. So, get off of Sanders, who's been a low floor. If you save 1,800 and, put Le'Veon Bell or Leonard Fournette in there, and of course you smash the tournament open. So it's really interesting to sort of watch it play out. I'm going to talk about this fellow, Reg Burks, really nice guy. He was sitting close to where I was at the tournament. Regular guy. I was rooting him on really hard. I was hoping he would win it. Another Mayfield, Landry, Calvin Ridley approach. So again, really sharp. I want to talk about his lineup because I really liked it. I mean, there's a massive mistake in here, but overall, I really liked it. And what I liked about it was he went Mayfield, Landry, still sharp, still a volume guy in a great matchup, but getting off of the Odell Beckham Jr. chalk that everybody was on. Did the same with Calvin Ridley. He got off the Julio Jones chalk, got onto Calvin Ridley. This is a very sharp lineup, guys. He made a mistake, but without the unforced error, he probably wins this tournament. A couple of unforced errors in here, but this is brilliant. Calvin Ridley to make a play off the Julio Jones chalk, still in a great spot. Plays Mayfield, Hunt, Landry. Again, it was an interesting combo that a lot of the Mayfield people did. Hunt was basically considered a pass catcher going into this game. So you were like, hey, I can pair him up with Mayfield, get a running back pass catcher combo. And of course, Jarvis Landry, the revenge narrative, plus it's Miami. There was a lot of reason to like Juice Landry here. He got Derrick Henry in there. Spectacular. Played Noah Fant, a high volume guy. I don't mind it. Guy was coming off 10 targets. He's a focus of I didn't like the game total for this Buffalo game, but I'm not going to criticize that. The guy was coming off 10 targets. And he was going to be very low owned, and that was correct. Where did this lineup, the only place it went wrong was right here with Jalen Samuels. You couldn't play Jalen Samuels at all. He got some targets. He wasn't getting carries for his team, even on the other games where he replaced Connor. He was way too expensive for the role. This was a poor play, and this is what really cost him the tournament. Unfortunately, that was the killer. But other than that, this is a winning lineup. Beautiful. So Mayfield, Landry, again, the pivot off of chalk Julio to Ridley. Devontae Parker, part of the game stack here. Beautiful. Derrick Henry, sharpest play. The only miss was Jalen Samuels, but Reg Burks, regular guy, really nice fellow. Wish him the best. Still came out with a really, really great amount of money. So we were rooting him on in a big, big way. Yeah, there were some crazy defenses that people chose. Broranosaurus Rex, the winner of the contest, did the same kind of thing, but made a couple sharp plays. I didn't think that playing Tyler Boyd was a great move, but what I like, again, I like the stack. I like that he put Ertz in the flex, but really the move that one hit for him was Redskins defense, and I don't know how you got on that. I assume that that's just how much salary he had left, so he said, YOLO, fuck it, I'll play him. And Driscoll's not that good. Why not? They're at home. I assume that. But this guy is a known player. He's been in a lot of live finals, and he's won a lot of them. So I want to show you guys before I let go, but before we move on, I'm going to show you some other known players' lineups. And specifically, I want to show you players lineups from guys who have been in a lot of these tournaments in the past, because these guys are very confident, very comfortable in this kind of a tournament. They're not like playing with any fear at all. Okay? Like you talk to Papa Gates, he wasn't there, I don't think, but even if he was, he didn't have any nerves. This guy's in these kind of contests all the time, right? I got 3 more next week. In this championship or that. These guys are always in these. Now, I mean, the lineup is terrible, absolutely terrible, but absolutely terrible. But and look, James White did nothing, so there you go too. But it's an absolutely terrible lineup. But the reason I want to show it is because to look at what he did. He got off of a lot of the chalk. He just, hey, I'm going to do a completely different thing than everybody else. I'm going to play Tom Brady, and I'm going to stack him with Edelman and White, and it's a comfortable stack, and I'll do the comeback with Amari Cooper. So there's a big, crazy team stack here that didn't work. Now, I don't know if he just doesn't give a shit. I mean, look how much. It was Brady, Watson, Edelman, James White. I mean, there's just way too much New England here. Really bad lineup. Papa Gates. And James. I mean, like, what are you doing? Didn't work. But, who am I to criticize? This is the kind of thing where if Brady goes off in this game where it shouldn't have, he would have done really well. Kalen Ballage, this is just, blindly following projection systems. Every projection system had Ballage, as one of the better plays, but everybody who watches football knew not to play. I assume there's not a lot of football watching. Playing Amari Cooper, again, in part of this game stack, it just really bad. But, again, I like the general idea of using a game stack like that. So you look at, quote unquote, one of the top players, a pro player, and you see that he didn't give a fuck. He went in this contest to win it, and he said, I don't care. If I don't win, I'll come in last, and I'm happy with that. Let's take a look at another sharp player lineup, McLovin. Big Marley was in there as the proxy for McLovin. McLovin pretty much, went off chalk at the running back position. Didn't work out. You've got Matt Ryan, Ridley, Mike Evans. Sharp stack didn't work. N'Keal Harry, I thought was a good play. Goddard, Kamara, similar things. But, instead of Evans going off, it was Goddard. It was Godwin. And, it's really hard to forgive the running back choices. But it could have worked out. Instead, towards the bottom. Here's another Papa Gates lineup. And this is what I'm saying. This guy has more than one lineup in the contest. Here he went with the Mitch Trubisky to Allen Robinson lineup, which worked. The issue here was, again, probably a little bit too much from the one game. So he tried to do another game stack here. And again, I guess you could do that when you have a couple of entries. So you've got Trubisky, Barkley, again, the horrible play of Kalen Ballage, who, you could tell that Papa Gates is pretty much going to be a slave to his projection system if he's playing this guy, because, the projections did favor Ballage, even though we all knew not to play him because he sucks. But Trubisky, very low ownership, so this is the sharp play. He said, I'm going to play Trubisky, Barkley, opposing running back. You've got 2 players, so quarterback +2, Gabriel, Allen Robinson, come back with Barkley. Why am I mentioning this? Because literally I've spent years on the Players Club pod, on the DFS Army, teaching you guys about correlated lineups and why to do this. And I want you to see that sharp players do this as well. This is how people win these games. These are not ideas that I pulled out of my ass. I've been watching what wins tournaments. I've been winning tournaments using these type of stacks. We've been on it for years. And people are only coming around to it now who are outside of the sharp area. But that's what DFS Army members get. That's what you understand. This is how you build a lineup. Now, again, I think this is a bit maybe too much correlation for this type of contest, but I love the balls of doing it. if you have no worries, you can go with a full blast game stack like that. In a tournament like this, I don't recommend it. I think you could win the tournament with a quarterback and more of a 1-1 game stack and then getting some one-offs that are high floor. I prefer doing that because, again, I don't like coming in last. Look for some more sharp players. This fellow TJ had a couple of entries in it. He played a very chalk sort of lineup here. Went with Montgomery. I understand why people played Montgomery. It's the Giants. They're supposedly terrible, but Montgomery just does not have that volume. I talked about it last week on the pod. Tariq Cohen is too good, and it just harms Montgomery's floor having somebody that good competing with him at the running back position. Ryan, Jones, Godwin, Ridley. So a full blast game stack. In order to fit it, though, he had to punt all the running back spots. So this was a win or you die lineup because you paid up at wide receiver and then had to punt all 3 running back positions. Unfortunately, these 3 running back punts did not work. And of course, Matt Ryan had a bad game and the whole thing went to shit. But this was a nice way to get leverage on the chalk of Ryan. I considered this as well. I said, well, if Ryan's going to go be chalk and go nuts, maybe just play him with all his wide receivers and, get all the points. Well, that only works if the team scores. So when they didn't, it was a disaster. It's something I considered, though, that sort of approach, although I was pretty much off Julio Jones in this contest from the start. But this fellow, here's Awesome-O, playing Amari Cooper against the New England secondary. This is another sort of probably play that comes off of a projection system where it's like, hey, it's Amari Cooper, and he was unusually cheap for Amari Cooper. Draftkings reduces the salary on players. There it is. So DraftKings reduces the salary on players in bad matchups, unlike other sites. And, it's not showing it for some stupid reason, but most of the time, Amari Cooper is a lot more than 6,600. He's usually a 7K plus type of player, especially in a good matchup. We've seen, though, Amari Cooper get shut down against quality cornerback play frequently in his career. That he's also got like a little bit of an injury thing going on, so not a great play there. Foles, though, DJ Shark. You've got the Jacksonville stack with the comeback on Jarek Henry. So you see a 3-man stack here: Foles, Shark, Henry. Fine. Didn't work. Nothing wrong with it. Kamara ate the chalk here. Miles Sanders ate that chalk. Tim Patrick, I don't get that. But Tim Patrick was another player that was popping on projection systems. I don't get it. It was going to be a low-scoring game environment. 37-point total. It was disgusting. This was just like a hope and a prayer. But it allowed you to fit Zach Ertz in there, which was a great play. So, the lineup didn't work, but you could see the correlation, you could see the stack, and you can see some of the thought that goes into it. These are all really sharp players. Chess is okay. Another sharp player, Ron Jones Jr. loves it. Same reasoning as me. Ryan, you want that game correlation, low ownership. He went with Ridley. So look at this as a sharp lineup. Ryan, Ridley, Jones, Ron Jones Jr. Big game stack, okay? This is more something I might play in a large tournament. Again, ate some chalk with Miles Sanders, had to afford it. Parker was a high-volume guy, solid play. Secondary stack, Odell Beckham Jr. Guys, what I talk about, secondary correlated stacks, right? Not connected to your quarterback. Where's the secondary correlated stack here? Odell Beckham, Devontae Parker. This worked really well. Parker doing well, Odell doing well, that game environment overall. I was going to pay up for Lions defense as well, so mea culpa there. It wouldn't have, you paying up for Lions defense didn't get you anywhere. Got you a few more points than the cheapest one, the Bengals. The reason I ended up going with Bengals defense was just because Mason Rudolph fucking sucks. So I was like, you know what? I'll take the cheapest defense against a rookie piece of shit quarterback. Here's our boy King of 9X, who is a DFS Army subscriber. He was hanging out, really cool guy. I went up against him in the competition on Friday for the go-kart racing. We had some side bets going. It was an awesome time. He's a trained driver of sorts. He's really good at DFS NASCAR, but he's also a police officer and trained in high-speed pursuits. I'm making excuses that I came in third. He won it. Got a trophy. So congrats to King of 9X for that. Not so much on this lineup. He went with Foles at Shark. That didn't really work well. Tim Patrick, really gross. And, he had the right combo at running back. All three guys did really well, but he was not able to find wide receivers that worked. And not pivoting off of Vance McDonald to Dallas Goedert when that news came out didn't help either. Paid up too much for Saints defense. Didn't work. All right, BJ. This is a fellow I met at the tournament. BJ, what's up if you're watching? And he played an interesting, he took an interesting approach where he got Michael Thomas. He jammed Michael Thomas, DJ Moore, and Christian McCaffrey all into one lineup with Drew Brees at the helm. Very good. Very good. I don't even mind the Jay Ajayi play. He was $3K min salary. I think he knew what he was doing with this one. The issue was, in order to squeeze in McCaffrey and Michael Thomas and a high cost Drew Brees into a lineup together, you basically had to throw away every other position in your lineup. And that's what cost BJ a shot at this one. Taylor Gabriel didn't help. Like the one pay up spot, it didn't work. So that was a problem as well. Jacob Hollister, good play. He paid up and it burned him. But, Jacob Hollister looked like a good play on paper. I didn't like Jacob Hollister in the contest because Eagles have been great against tight ends, but I don't even know if that matters. Matt Ryan, 35% owned, man. That's what it is. So he was a core play. I don't put core plays out at the quarterback position, in general of like having 100%, but Matt Ryan was who most people played. And these are sharp players, including me. I just give out who I play. But again, looking at BJ's lineup, and like I said, really nice guy. Awesome dudes, hanging out a little bit, him and his buddy. And, this was sharp in some ways, but, it missed the mark. And again, where could it have been improved? Going down a little bit, saving this 600 from Hollister. I don't think it was a wise call to pay up a tight end with this style of lineup. Just leave Vance McDonald in there and then play someone else that's not Jacob Hollister, at 4,300. That could have been helpful here in the flex. There were a lot of plays that worked at that price point. Some of the running back plays you could pay down for. Or go down to like a Gage here and, a few hundred more, and you could have gotten somebody different here. Maybe try to get to, some other approach. So, but what I did like about this was he got Christian McCaffrey at 16%, Michael Thomas at 20%. Both of these guys give you 30 points every single week. So 1, 2, 3 locked in 90 points. The only problem with this was everybody else failed. But if he caught another good spot or two, he did catch one with DJ Moore, which is what got him, into the top 20. But he needed one more. And I might have avoided DJ Moore. I might have gone with something like Devontae Parker. I might have done something different if he had like a Parker instead of Moore here. And I know it's hard to give him up, but, going down to like a Parker or somebody like that could have added something. Again, going down from Jacob Hollister to a cheaper tight end like Dallas Goedert when Dallas Goedert was in a good spot, that could have helped. So there's a few changes here that could have really made a big difference. Here's TJ. We saw him before. He had a pretty heavy duty stack, and let's see what he did here. Another intense stack, and this one worked. Mayfield, Beckham, Landry. It worked. Devontae Parker on the comeback. Ertz, high floor, Julian Edelman, and he made it all work with these two turdly running backs. Had he put in Miles Sanders, he's second place. Whatever. All right, guys. Here's some last minute notes. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, a full hour breakdown. I really wanted to focus in on making a lineup for one contest and how you can read the chalk and do smart pivots off of it to try to win this type of a tournament. And you have to go in with no fear. That's really the key. You've got to get off of that chalk a lot of the time, or just go in with no fear. Lock in the floor. Treat it kind of like a cash game, but with just a little bit of an edge. So I don't think that A lot of these guys made stupid lineups. Like I said, I mean, you see at the bottom here, these aren't bad lineups. They just didn't work. But had they worked, they would have won the contest. So you had a lot of people who had played it to win. And then you had a lot of people who played it not to lose. This is a play it to win lineup. Mayfield, Beckham, Jarvis Landry. But it's not a stupid lineup. Why isn't it stupid? Because pretty much the entire passing offense for Cleveland is these two guys. So if Mayfield's having a big game, it's 1-2 guys. That's it. That's the only guys they throw to. That's it. That's not a stupid lineup. They were going to get volume. Parker, comeback, okay. We liked Parker anyway. It wasn't like he played, Albert Wilson. Parker, 10 targets the last couple of weeks, sharp play. Zach Ertz, sharpest play on the board. Julian Edelman, with a lot of injuries to New England wide receivers, Edelman was going to be in for a big volume day. He almost got the bonus. One more catch, gets the bonus, and it looks a lot better. It looks like 22 fantasy points. Great. Sharp plays, high floors, high floor, high floor, high floor, high floor, high floor, and then punts, right? These didn't work. But Philip Lindsay was a good play on paper. He was getting all the looks, and Buffalo was a team to attack. The problem was that the game total was shit, and Denver couldn't score. That happens. Buffalo's defense has been very good. Let's pay attention to that for Thanksgiving. And, of course, Brian Hill, I don't understand this at all. I would never have played him. But that cost him, the money. Had he not played Brian Hill, had he just put even chalk Manny Sanders or Ron Jones Jr., he wins the tournament. So one mistake here, but the rest of the lineup is spectacular. And again, correlation. Tanky, what's up, Tanky? You literally asked me about this today in Slack. So I hope that this explained where core plays come from and how to pivot off of core plays. Just slightly, but smartly, not stupidly, because we're not going to do stupid things in an expensive tournament. Now, again, I always talk about getting silly for the millie. Do whatever the fuck you want in the millie maker. Play Trubisky, get silly for it, because when you're entering that contest, you have your expectation should be, I'm losing. I'm not going to make money on these entries ever. And once in a while, it hits. But if you're entering a high dollar 75 person contest, and high dollar for you is whatever the hell it is for you. Okay, if it's a 75-person single entry contest, I don't care if it's $500, if it's $5,000 or $5. What high dollar is to you is what it is to you. I consider the size of the contest the most important thing. If you're going up against 50, 75 people, it's completely different than going up against 5,000, 7,000, 70,000 people. 70,000, you got to be unique. You got to fade a lot of chalk. There's like in that size contest, you would be smart. Just don't play any Matt Ryan. Going to be 30% owned in a 70,000 person contest? No. Play the guy who's 1% owned and then get an edge on the field. Or do things like this where you do Mayfield, Beckham, and Landry. You do the triple stack. Like I said, what we do with the domination station by setting up our stacks. We're creating massive correlation that also creates uniqueness. Secondary stacks, right? So we're not just doing the massive correlation. He's got a secondary stack. Broncos, Philip Lindsay. I'm not even pointing these out, but look at what sharp players do. One stack, Broncos, Lindsay. Another full game stack, Mayfield, Beckham, Landry, Parker. That's a game stack, guys. This is how you build a sharp lineup. This is what I preach all year. I want you to see why it's happening. Why we preach this, because this is what wins tournaments. And when you look at the sharpest players, this is exactly what they're doing. What I do. What other sharp players who've done this a long time do. People ask me, what's correlation? Literally, somebody asked me the other day, what's correlation? I'm like, have you been here? How? I don't know how I can tell you more. So I've never seen your videos, but I've been a DFS Army subscriber for, a year and a half. I'm just busy. All right. What do you want from me? What do you want from me? Like, leave me alone. You don't watch my videos. You don't read my sheet, but I don't have mind power. I can't force you to do it. But I mean, like, use the optimizer. It literally creates lineups designed to win mass tournaments. Double stack, game stacks, team stacks, secondary correlated stacks. What more do you want? This is how the lineups are constructed that win. It's the reason that, again, Bobby Wow this week came in like 5th, 6th, and 8th in the Millie Maker on FanDuel again, using the domination station. There's a reason. It's designed to win tournaments. There's a lot of volatility on the way, though. All right. Final notes for all of you asking. It's Thanksgiving week. This is a tough week for content for everybody who breaks down NFL football games. Everybody, right? Because there's basically a 3-game slate on Thursday, and it's very distracting because you want to focus in on that. But then there's a massive slate on Sunday, and you got to be ready for it. I'm already working on my Thursday sheet, so here's what DFS Army members are going to get. You'll get my Geeks Pick sheet, Thursday slate. We've got DFS Up North, Josh, doing showdown breakdowns for all 3 games for the Thanksgiving slate. I love that slate. It's a lot of fun. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it if you don't want to. 3 games, volatile. But you're going to be watching them. It's Thanksgiving. You're going to be with your family. You don't want to pay attention to your fucking family. You want to watch games. So you can load up. There's mini max contests. There's, the $20 turkey bowl on DraftKings. FanDuel has a big contest as well. I think there are some sharp plays there. We're going to go over all of it. I will have a special Players Club DFS Army VIP breakdown of just that slate. I'm going to try to get to that early because I can't wait until Friday to start on my Geeks Pick sheet. It will never get done for the main slate, so I'm going to try to get done with that early and get working on the Sunday slate games as well. It's a crazy week for me. And of course, you have to go and have time with your family on Thursday too. So, bear with us if things come out maybe a little bit later than usual, but we will be all over it. I'm going to try to attack the FanDuel DraftKings Fantasy Football Championships now because I want to go back to Miami. Now I feel like I want to go back. I had a good time. Final note, DraftKings did a really great job with the whole thing. I'm wearing my Fits and the Tantrum shirt. Fits and the Tantrums. They put on a concert. DraftKings, literally, they put on an awesome concert. Fits and the Tantrums, great band. I'm familiar with one of their songs, but I don't go see bands play. That's not my thing. But these guys were really good. There weren't that many people there. It was like 50 people in the room. Amazing food at all of the events throughout the weekend. Really, they did a nice job, high class. Just they've got their shit together over at DraftKings in terms of doing these live events. They have a nice events team, and kudos to all of them for doing a really good job. All right, that's it for this one, guys. I got to get to work. I'll be back with my Geeks Pick sheet. I'm already working on for the Turkey Bowl. If you just click on cheat sheets on DFS Army, I think by tonight you'll see mostly a completed sheet. I've done the quarterback position. I sat down and I did it last night. So I've been looking at these games, a lot of interesting ones. We got to find out what's happened with Driscoll for this weekend and the quarterback situation for the Lions. It's going to change a lot. Bears defense, super chalk. Let's get it. Good luck, everybody. Thanks for tuning in and checking this out. And of course, forgot to say it, like and subscribe. Even if you're not a DFS Army members, like and subscribe to this channel so that when we go live, when we do these videos, you're around to watch them. I think it will help you learn how to be a better player. Again, subscriber or not, what I'm trying to do is show you how to be a better player in DFS. I've seen a lot of videos. This past weekend, I was just down in Florida. I was watching a lot of videos, and man, they are shit. So it's amazing how the lack of sharp knowledge that's out there. I couldn't believe it, honestly. I'm not going to name names. So these were some public videos that I saw. I rarely do public video. This is the first year I've ever really done anything publicly. I try to keep everything for DFS Army subscribers only. But at some point, I got to get the word out, man. I need more people in the group. We got to get people in. More people in. Better people we can hire to cover all the different stuff and improve our optimizer and all that shit. That's what the budget goes towards. So, doing some public stuff. But, man, I started watching this video. Oh, my God. There's a lack of knowledge out there that's frightening. Anyway, good luck, everyone, this week. Again, like and subscribe. If you're not a DFS Army subscriber and you're watching this, go to dfsarmy.com. Sign up using code KOTB. I got a special one, King of the Beach, KOTB. You get 20% off your subscription for VIP. We're crushing every sport, and NBA is going strong right now. Well, we're always crushing MMA and NASCAR, and golf is in the swing season, in the shoulder season. NASCAR will be back soon. So it's a great time of year to play some DFS. Final thought also on Thanksgiving. Again, don't go crazy. Load up, mass multi-enter. We're going to talk about high dollars, small game strategy. You could play it, but 3 games is less good than 12 games. It's harder to be sharp in a 3-game slate because weird shit happens, just like showdowns. Can't really be sharp in a showdown. Weird shit happens. All right, call into the day. Take care, everyone.